From Leonardo DiCaprio to Jason Statham and George Clooney, Hollywood is crawling with uber successful men in relationships with much younger women. This, of course, is a contentious subject, often met with scrutiny at the hand of older women, claiming that the sole and only reason why a man will want to date a younger woman is because she is much easier to manipulate. Just see the predatory receipts.
The real reason why men date younger women is not because of their physical appearance, their bodies. No, because today with plastic surgery and everything else, you barely know who is 40 and who is 18. Guys date younger women because they're easily manipulated. They're gonna be very happy with a few crumbs because maybe they didn't experience much in the world. They're gonna be just easily impressed. And it's way cheaper to date a younger girl.
Okay, this is it. Here's the real reason why older men date younger women. It's because they can manipulate them. What do I mean by that? I mean just that. An older man will date a younger woman because he can manipulate her. He can play games with her. He can run circles around her. He can manipulate her mind. But he can't do that with an older woman because she's seen all of those games. She's seen all of that manipulation. She's seen all of those lies and all those inconsistencies. She knows all of that stuff. So he can't run those games with her and he can't play games with her. And he doesn't want to not do that because he still wants to be a little boy. So he dates younger women because he can blow her mind and play games with her because she hasn't seen anything, she doesn't know anything, and she can't catch that game like that. So that's why he dates the younger women, because he's just not ready to date an older woman and be straight up and be a man. So ladies, take heed to what I'm telling you and govern yourself accordingly. All right, that's my tip.
I work in finance in a male-dominated industry, and I'm going to tell you why older guys date younger women. I have all these guys around me that I see doing that, and I asked 100 men, whether they're doing that now or not. I asked 100 men, why do you date younger women? And while I understand 100 may not be that huge of a pool, if every single one of them is saying the same thing, I think is pretty legit. So initially I thought that they were dating younger women because younger women were prettier. But I came to understand that no, there are plenty of older women that will give a younger girl a run for her money, right? Very pretty older women out there. Looks has nothing to do with it. Every single guy, every single one told me that the reason that they like dating younger women is because they're easier to deal with. And I was like, what does that mean, easier to deal with? And they said, well, she doesn't challenge me. It's not always a back and forth. I just tell her something and it just is. And life is just much easier that way without someone always challenging you and asking you questions. Translation, younger women are more gullible. And if you're a younger woman, this is not a knock on you. I was gullible when I was younger too, when I was in my 20s and 30s. But older women are no longer gullible. You know why? Because we have experience in dating. We have seen all the BS, we have seen all the games, and we can see right through it. Our BS meter is on point. And when a guy tries to BS us, we call him out, right? Because we know that's not true. However, if you're younger, you don't have the same experience, you're not gonna do that. So older women understand that the reason that you are not being chosen has nothing to do with your looks or your age. It has to do with they think you're too smart. And younger women, please stop dating these old ass dudes, because one of the main reasons they wanna be with you is because they think you're too gullible and you deserve better.
So let me make sure I understand the logic these women are putting forward. You're telling me that a 16-year-old autistic girl is mature enough to lecture world leaders on climate change, but a 23-year-old woman does not have the mental capacity necessary to enter into a romantic relationship with a 40-year-old man. Anybody else catching the intellectual dishonesty here? So why is it? Why do men across all age brackets, from 15-year-old high school boys to 90-year-old men in assisted care living, seem to find women between the ages of 18 and 25 to be the most attractive? Well, the first answer to that question is pretty obvious. Men are visual creatures. We essentially sort for optics. From an evolutionary psychology standpoint, beauty, which often correlates with youth, is an indicator of fertility. Now, you heard one of the women in that clip claim that with plastic surgery these days, you don't know who's 40 and who is 20, which is an absolute lie. There is a difference between being 20 and looking like a 20-year-old bearded dragon. We can tell the difference. Another argument often made against the fertility point is the fact that with modern medical advancements such as egg freezing, women can get pregnant much later in life. Now, be that as it may, but why would a man choose to incur the heavy cost of IVF, which also has a heavy failure rate? And even if it succeeds, 40% of the time, what's coming out of a 45-year-old woman won't make it to kindergarten without the aid of a mobility scooter. So it's a lose-lose situation. Secondly, younger women tend to be more in touch with their feminine side. To understand what I mean by that, you need to know the key difference between self-worth and sexual market value. You often hear older women say things like, I'm independent, I make my own money, I have a career, I own my own home, etc., etc. Where is my husband? Well, ma'am, what you've done is turn yourself into the man that you're attracted to. Women have been sold this idea of an alpha male lifestyle. Get out there, climb the corporate ladder, make partner at work, put off getting married and bearing children, and when you hit 35, a certain bitterness kicks in. Because they erroneously assumed that men and women are attracted to the same things in each other. But the truth of the matter is, an established man couldn't care less about how much money you make or how many homes you own. On top of that, a woman who has managed to thrive in a heavily male environment, like the corporate world, has had to consistently tap into her masculine energy in order to thrive in these boardrooms, which is not easy to turn off when you get home. So these women are often heavily disagreeable and uncooperative, which are essential traits in a middle manager of a Fortune 500 company in the midst of negotiating a hostile takeover, but terrible attributes in a wife. Now, am I saying that by pursuing a career, you're killing all chances of locking down a man? Absolutely not. However, when a woman wakes up at 38, after putting her energy in pursuing a career, then decides that now is the time that she's going to focus on building a family, the man she's interested in are not interested in her. Why is that? It's because men and women follow different trajectories on the sexual market value graph. Women reach their peak between the ages of 18 and 25, with 22, according to all metrics, being the absolute top of the mountain. This is when they can get any man they want. Men, on the other hand, don't reach their peak until the ages of 34 to 37, because it takes much longer for a man to self-actualize. That is, of course, assuming that that man has done everything in his power to become the best version of himself. So when we finally reach that peak and have a wider selection of mates to pick from, or a charcuterie board, as I like to call it, There is no incentive in picking a woman who is now at the dusk of her sexual market value. In other words, an established 35-year-old man who has his shit together is the sexual market equivalent of a hot 24-year-old woman. Which brings me to my final point. Younger women like older men. Let that sizzle in your spirit a little bit. If that was not the case, you wouldn't have the phenomenon that we're currently discussing. There isn't a single culture in the world throughout all of history where the average age of the man is not higher than the average age of the woman for a first marriage. All you have to do is analyze women's selection criteria when picking a mate. They seek a man who is confident, competent, has wealth, or at least exhibits the potential of amassing wealth. They look for a man with status, a man with a compelling lifestyle, a keen ability to communicate, emotional intelligence, etc. Now ask yourself, who is more likely to exhibit all those traits that I just named? A 22-year-old man or a 42-year-old man? Obviously, the 42-year-old man, again, assuming that he has done everything in his power to become the best version of himself, is more than likely going to score higher up and down that list. A 22-year-old man might be hot and a good time in a sack, but that is not what women select for in a partner as primary criteria. So, it's society's problem. Skeezy old men manipulating young women to bamboozle them out of their affections? Or is it these sneaky young women enchanting these defenseless old men to milk them out of resources? The answer is neither. People like what they like because nature must ensure the propagation of the species. And no amount of complaining about it on TikTok can change that fact. It is what it is, which is absolutely preposterous. Moving on. And that'll do for the show this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Please don't forget to share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you know when we're uploading new content. We're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers before October, so each and every form of engagement helps. Until next time, stay preposterous.